throne. Even the Ogryn plays faster than you.
Oi! You lot! Aren't you supposed to be somewhere else?
Now, as you are all well aware, I'm not one for regularly dropping heads-up content style, but lately there's a lot coming in bits and pieces, and today seemed like a very good time to just mention that there is a lot going on right now. New games, new updates, and a lot of trailers. I'll just say quickly as well that I wouldn't be totally opposed to actually throwing out slightly more regular videos showcasing new stuff, basically updating, rounding it up, because it's the most low effort content possible. It's basically me just giving you a heads up and saying, here's a thing, here's what I think about it. It's quite refreshing actually for me to make this kind of video that doesn't take a week to just get the script sorted, for example, plus, you know, variety, the spice of life, etc. So if you want to see more showcases from me, similar to my breakdown of Space Marine 2, things like this, or showcasing of miniatures, drop a like on this video, tell me about it below. I want to say in before comments saying don't let it interrupt other content. I wouldn't, because this stuff takes me so little time to put together. So, firstly, and most importantly, today, we have had full radio silence on Darktide for a long period of time right now, since the middle of 2021, but finally we have a new release date for it, September 13, 2022. They just dropped today a cool little teaser update trailer showcasing a bit of a feel for the game and giving us a little environmental lore vibe for the game as well as a bit of gameplay. There continues to be a good amount of interest for Darktide despite the 40k game landscape being ever more busy, and I can't say that this is going to change anytime soon, gladly. The only way is up. So in this small Darktide trailer, what we learned is really the tone of the game to a degree, which is a little bit of humour but within a very dark environment of a hive city. What's interesting and very welcomed for me is that GW is steadily expanding this portfolio of established hive worlds within which games and other events can take place. For the very longest time, Necromunda was the default stock hive world. It's the most documented and fleshed of all the hive worlds in 40k. But that is now steadily changing. As I've noted recently, we also have Varangantua, where the 40k Crimes series has taken place in several novels, Darktide adjacent. Alecto is an Imperial hive world far from any of the typical 40k Warzone confrontations and Xenos, and upon this world lies the hive city of Varangantua. It's so large in fact that it has different climactic zones, and most interesting when it comes to Varangantua, its people are largely ignorant about the state of the wider galaxy, and most are convinced that Xenos are not even real, little more than fishermen's tales. It also has several enclaves belonging to the Adeptus Mechanicus, producing things such as high-grade servitors for off-world export. Their specific purpose, I think we may best state as being questionable and troublesome. I'll let you join the disturbing dots on that one. Most Mechanicus enclaves belong to Zal Arkad, which you recall I discussed recently on the video Rise and Fall of a Forge World, which is linked at the end of this video for your viewing pleasure. So that's the stuff in the Warhammer crime side of things. But when it comes to Darktide, my point is when you come back to their hive city of Tertium, so far the information about the hive city with Darktide is actually pretty sparse. We basically have only learned that deep within the depths of the hive, the seeds of corruption now threaten an overwhelming tide of darkness. A heretical cult known as the Admonition seeks to seize control of the planet Atoma Prime and lay waste to its inhabitants. It's going to be up to you and your allies in the Inquisition to root out the enemy before the city succumbs to chaos. And the Steam page also gladly states this includes bloody violence and gore. Excellent. In the original trailer we saw Recon Squad being sent into the sub-levels of the Hive City. This made the overall concept quite clear. Slaughtering heretics. What's not to love about that?
And what the hell is wrong with that? Not a thing.
What I liked about Darktide from the outside was that the default position of yourself as a character in any 40k game is always Space Marine Captain, Commander, and Inquisitor, some super powerful being essentially who's going to go toe-to-toe with the worst the galaxy of M41 can throw at you. But Darktide is offering something else, something that so many of us wanted and something that I've been advocating as a huge positive lately. The development of the Warhammer crime series being one of those things, delving into the dark underbelly of human society in the age of the Imperium. And now with Darktide, it's possible we're going to get more of that humanity coming through, instead of the more standard hulking transhuman Astartes who are by their design overpowered to the nth degree. The vulnerability of an ordinary human, something lacking in many 40k games, and perhaps we finally see a game which is by no means comparable to, say, Doom, in the sense that there you take on the role of this single superhuman champion. Darktide is perhaps looking to straddle, though, between this and something more like Space Hulk with its cooperative nature. Then with Darktide, things are only made more interesting by the inclusion of Dan Abnett, which starts to beg the question, how much of a narrative game can Darktide be? I think for many, seeing Dan's inclusion as one of the many internationally renowned writers for 40k being a keystone for locking in interest with this game that may otherwise have been considered just more standard 40k fare. So Fatshark showcased a fair amount of this early kind of gameplay, giving you a flavour of the game, the basic mechanics and so on. But then they also described more about the general feel and direction. The gameplay gave us some good action shots, but listening to Dan Abnett describe how you're recruited into the Inquisition as a prisoner, basically you're a penal Imperial drafted to take on the extremely dangerous task of exploring these dark corners of a continent-sized hive city, chances are you're very likely not going to return, but if you do, great news for the Inquisitorial agent. What I'm most intrigued by with Darktide, because we need to see a lot more of the game, but what I'm intrigued by is the balance between full heretic slaughtering action and a revealing narrative. Is that going to be possible here? I like that, for example, they bothered to explain the mechanics of you returning to this hub area of your operations to unlock new equipment, and usually in a game that's done through some kind of unnamed outside XP process at an extra diegetic level. The way it was described in Darktide, though, is at the diegetic level. It's through you earning the trust of the Inquisition, thereby them giving you access to more equipment. It's basically immersive, it's in the verse. This seems somewhat more reasonable, and I really like the fact that it's giving that level of immersion and bringing you in. So yes, you're going to have a mad, crazy, bloodthirsty, smashing, shootery game, but it's also tying and pulling everything in. By looking at the concept art, the gameplay shown, and these updated trailers of the world building going on for Darktide, the immersive feeling, the emotional feeling of the world that you're being put into, it's looking very interesting indeed. Not to mention that today they broke, as I say, radio silence for the first time in a long time. We've only got a few more months now to wait basically before we can start getting stuck into some shooty co-op 40k heretic slaying action, and I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
So let it be more.
Now, one of the next things I wanted to note were some of the other developments of late, just to finish up with, and if you by now hadn't seen it, I strongly recommend you go and check out the Horus Heresy trailer showcased at Adepticon this past week. It's an absolutely delicious view, and it appears that Games Workshop are finally looking to update this long-standing 40k adjacent game of the 30k Heresy. Now, this for many will of course be a very sensitive change due to the almost seminal lore work handled by Alan Bly, who sadly passed away in 2017. Alan was, as many know, integral to the production of this Heresy series of tabletop books through Forge World. And this is undoubtedly going to be an incredibly difficult production for Games Workshop to navigate, because right now the 9th edition of 40k Tabletop is facing, I would say, an almost community-wide, or so it appears from my vantage point, appeal to simplify the game, as it has become bloated and weighed down by sheer volume of rules, strats and fragmentation of detail. I see a great many channels who very obviously focus on the tabletop aspect of 40k more than me commenting to this effect, and that the barrier for entry is now so complex that new players really do face a rule bloat the likes of which have rarely been seen, and leave even some veterans scratching their heads about trying to make sense of it all. So it's going to be interesting to see just what kind of transformation is going to take place in terms of the Horus Heresy tabletop game. How is it going to update? I think honestly there's too much to say on this in such a short video, and I think speculation when we're so close to knowing more is probably unnecessary. Suffice to say though, people are very passionate and understandably emotionally attached to the 30k Heresy game, and this will be an incredibly difficult release to satisfy everybody in terms of new people who want to get into it and veteran players. So I'm very intrigued to see what's going to be delivered. In terms though of just this Heresy trailer itself, it was pretty awesome. The standout points for me were very obviously the Titan War, the world-consuming feeling of the Heresy with its vast scale. I enjoyed the Gatling weaponry of the Titans. I felt it could have used a bit more audible punch. I would have liked to have really felt that in the stomach. I would have very liked to have seen some great waves of Imperial Guard being vaporized, or for example, not dissimilar to the trailer we saw at the start of 9th as a guardsman's face is conflagrated by a Necron Gorse weapon. Maybe throw in some other Titan variants that you don't see so often would have been pretty cool. And then we've got epic levels of drop pod action, Titan void shields, and of course the orbital bombardment of a Titan. It was all good stuff. It was an all-action trailer, very hype intensive. Saying that, who knows what the verdict's ultimately going to be when things come down in the first week of May. Also, for those of you who check out my community tab posts here on the channel would have seen, heads up, go check out my community tab posts here on the channel because I regularly try to post there and update, and I think that's actually a feature I will try to use more going forward because it gets really good interaction with you guys, and it's an opportunity for me to post and give you some kind of interaction in between video posts. So with this Horus Heresy update, they've also put together a new website, and there you can play a little game where it basically predicts or selects what chapter best suits you. My chapter designation was Ultramarines, so it was spot on. Lastly, I wanted to just note this one because I really enjoyed the trailer for it. Soon we're getting some new Chaos Knights. This was a great piece of simple animation that shows the worship and scale of ordinary Imperial citizens upon an Imperial or a Knight world. And I truly love the transition of power and scale as we see a venerable nobleman of an Imperial family speaking with great reverence for his family and the knight. He's being lowered into the chamber of the Knight Awe ceremony, many thousands of Imperial citizens watching on, and then they transition to him being strapped to the outer hull of a Chaos Knight. It's just delicious. You can watch the whole thing over on the Warhammer Community YouTube channel, but I'll leave you with the baiting prospect that this has enthused me to look at something I know many of you have been asking for some time, and that is Knight lore. So tell me your thoughts about all I've discussed today down below, and if you want to see more of these roundup overviews, hit the like, share, all of that good stuff. And a big thanks to all of you who support me here on the channel. I want to say a special thanks though to all of you who gave me such huge support in the comments over on my community posts this month, because I know March was quite a month for me, but you guys came back and you smashed support in the last video. It really was very motivating and humbling for me, so thanks to all of you. As you know, the comments and likes on videos, remembering to do this simple action, it really does make a very big difference. So as always, I'll say back soon with more. I'll see you all in the next one.